So, welcoming to the Sexy Aging podcast today. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Maryon Stewart, who is from the UK and based in Florida, USA. But the interesting thing here, the interesting thing here is that Maryon is the pioneer of the natural menopause movement. So, you have been in this space for quite a while, and I am absolutely thrilled to cross paths with you now because I'm relatively new in this space of from personal experience, perimenopause, and just some new assets that I've put out there to educate women across what's happening to their bodies. You are the author of 28 books, including The Natural Menopause Plan and Manage Your Menopause Naturally, and you spend quite a lot of your time on book tours and meeting the women that are obviously needing this type of information. And you're the CEO of FEMA offering, FEMA, is that right?
FEMA.
FEMA.
Yeah.
So you're offering resources to women to help understand and manage their symptoms. So that's quite a lot of life work that you have given and put out there into the world, Maryon. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, my team and I started helping women with PMS many, many years ago based on published medical research. And it was all on the natural approach. And 94% of the women were symptom-free. And we went on doing that until the early 90s. There were publications on menopause, the natural approach to menopause. And so we tweaked the program and then turned it into a menopause program as well. And we have helped literally, well, I think my books, funny enough, I was actually on a book tour in Australia and I was at a new women's library in Melbourne. And the photographer kept telling me to put my hand back on the shelf and I felt like my arm was going to drop off. So I looked back, and when I looked at my fingers, they were touching 2 of my PMS videos. So like I was round the world from London in Melbourne, and this particular video, we had 500 made because we had them funded, and I'd given them all out to women's groups, and I only owned 1 at that point. And there were 2 in this library in Melbourne. So I realized that we had actually literally gone around the world helping women. And we've helped literally hundreds of thousands of women to feel better. And the awful thing is that our surveys show, the last survey we did showed that 96% of women were taken by surprise by their menopause.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, can I just say, I'm in the fitness industry, have been in this space for a really long time. I know what's happening with my body. And, when you talk about the natural way to manage PMS, I was doing that as well. But when perimenopause came, I didn't even know what it was, had never heard of the word. And this is only a few years ago. So
no,
it's
it doesn't
really
surprise me at all. I mean, it really doesn't surprise me. I mean, that I almost had a bet with another nutritionist that perimenopause didn't last more than 5 years. But when we said, okay, let's have a look and see what the literature shows. And it says it can last for up to 8 years. And the average age of menopause is just 1 day. It's the anniversary, it's 51, it's the anniversary of your last period. And then you're postmenopausal for the rest of your life and much more vulnerable to things like osteoporosis, which is a silent killer, and heart disease and dementia. But the research shows you can prevent all that. So going back to our survey, not only were most of the women completely taken by surprise by their menopause, but 2/3 of them said they felt robbed of life as they knew it. And it just makes me cry, because we've been helping women for almost 3 decades. And the transformation that we see when people have what I call a midlife refuel is nothing short of, I mean, it's just amazing. It is truly a transformation. They go from feeling like it's the end of life as they knew it. Some of them are even suicidal, curled up in a ball, can't function, can't go to work. Relationships are in an awful mess because they don't want to be touched and they can't talk about it. And then they have this refuel and come out the end of it feeling not just better, but better than they ever dreamt, like the best version of themselves, just because they had low levels of nutrients and empty receptor sites, the estrogen receptor sites. And once they fill those up again and maybe make a few other changes to their lifestyle, it's a whole different ballgame. And it's so important because 100 years or so, we weren't living much past 50, didn't really matter. But now when 40 something is halfway for so many of us, and we have to look after ourselves. It's not magic. We're not necessarily going to have strong bones and a healthy heart and keep our brain agile if we don't learn to meet our needs.
Yeah, No, I agree. I mean, the foundations of healthy aging, movement, nutrition, stress reduction, joy, community, and fantastic sleep. So,
Yeah.
when we can kind of put all that together, we can manage most of the symptoms quite naturally. Now, obviously, HRT is a really big topic and it's pervading into I can see the UK market and here in New Zealand and Australia as well. There's a lot of conversation around it. Obviously, the debunked study from back in 2000. So, what's your take on this? Because you've spent decades helping women manage menopause naturally. How do you feel about where things are going today? It is a really interesting conversation because, I believe wholeheartedly that, applying the wellness and health hacks, I call them, to your life can actually serve you really well. However, I'm on HRT as well. So I'm really curious as to get your perspective on everything that's going on. So it's probably a big conversation.
It's a massive conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're right. I do focus on the natural approach. We've never had to focus on anything else because the women, as I said, have this incredible transformation, so they don't have any symptoms. And we know that the research shows that doing what we do, including exercise, can actually help to create new bone, protect you from heart disease and dementia. So there's no risk in the long term for not taking it. The other thing is that in the early days, we did 5 separate studies looking at women's nutrient levels. And we found that very often women have got low levels of things like magnesium, B vitamins, iron, zinc, essential fatty acids, and so on. And those nutritional deficiencies affect our brain chemistry and our hormone function. So we end up firing on 2 cylinders instead of 4, and we feel absolutely rubbish. We're like a bucket with a hole in it. And no one is taught at any stage in their life, at school or whenever, about how to correct nutritional deficiencies, which get worse as you get older. And the current research shows that billions of women have got nutritional deficiencies. Now, if you take HRT and it suits you, then that's okay, but it's not going to correct nutritional deficiencies, and it's not going to make you get up off your chair. And as a fitness instructor, how important exercise is. It not just speeds up your metabolism so you burn up the belly fat, also oxygenates your brain, it releases the endorphins that make you feel good, and also it keeps you in good shape. So that's good for your self-esteem and it makes you feel more sexy. So why would you just want to take a pill? Now, the other aspect of it is, to finish answering your question, sorry, this is such a long answer.
No, it is a big conversation,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In our last survey, we are called What Women Want. 1,100 women answered. I think out of the women who took HRT, 41% were prescribed HRT. This was a couple of years ago. Out of those, 14% didn't take it because they were too afraid of the side effects. And the ones who did take it, 62% of them came off it within a very short space of time because of adverse side effects. And so then they were left, they didn't have anything else because the doctors are not educated for the most part. The Mayo Clinic survey in the US, for example, in 2019 showed that only 7% of doctors and gynecologists feel adequately educated to help women going through menopause. And so women just get bowled over by their hormones. They haven't got a clue what to do. And HRT is a massive subject all by itself. The book before last I had a whole section in there on HRT. I'm not an expert myself, but I got an expert from the US and an expert from England to help me write the chapter. And we tried to interpret the world literature, and it's so variable because some of the substances, for example, some of the bioidentical hormones in the US got banned by the FDA. They said they were dangerous.
Yeah.
Yet others have been through research. How do you find out? There was some research in neurology a couple of years ago, or maybe a little bit more than that now, showing that women taking HRT pills were wiping out the white matter in their brain. And they did a 2-year review to find that it didn't regenerate. So I think that, it is a big subject. If you want to take it, you need to find a practitioner that you trust. You need to make sure you've done your research. But I'd say to you, why don't you try the natural approach first? Because if you're going to manage your symptoms completely and you're feeling brilliant, why do you need to medicate? This is a life stage, it's not a medical condition. And so that's my view. And we have women on our program who are taking HRT. Some of them want to come off it and they wean off it under the practitioner's care. gradually, never and never come off HRT suddenly unless you've got a medical emergency, because you can feel really awful. You can get withdrawal symptoms. But some women want to wean off it and other women want to stay on it. And you can do the two things together in parallel. So it's very much, I believe that women should have all the information, all the science, so that they can make informed choices. And that's my worry about the HRT lobby, is they are very, very blinkered and want everyone to be taking HRT forever, which is obviously the pharmaceutical industry's best dream. But I don't really think that that is necessary.
Well, you've obviously had a massive cohort of women who have successfully managed their symptoms, come through postmenopause, but also they're in postmenopause, but they probably have got some really good lifestyle foundations set up now, because we know with postmenopause that we come up against real health issues, which you've mentioned. I think people don't realize that heart disease and cardiovascular diseases are worse for women than breast cancer or cancer, right? So, and these things often happen after menopause or postmenopause. I agree with so much of what you've said. And of course, I mentioned that I'm on HRT. So personally, I feel like I managed 80% of my symptoms. And there were definitely things that really kept rocking my world on a daily basis. For example, the brain fog, motivation, creaky joints. Now, I'm taking my omega-3s. My nutrition is spot on. Like, nobody could question the way I eat, because I'm really, really good about it. That it's all science and evidence-based, and I've spoken to the experts. But I still had these things that were really, really messing with me. And so my take on it was, I'm doing everything I can here as naturally as I can. And if I'm going to speak in this space, in menopause, then I actually feel like I need to know, what would HRT do for me? Now, the other thing you said that was absolutely correct, only 7% of GPs in New Zealand. So I would say, at a guess, we're close to that, to actually understand how to prescribe it and how to support in this stage of life. So my experience personally was that I went to a GP. She was a woman. She was in her 50s, obviously, to me, probably menopausal. And she couldn't help me. And that kind of blew my mind. And so, I had to jump a lot of hoops to sort of find out, how can I access this? I will say that I ended up on the lowest dosage, and I'm take transdermal HRT. And it helped me within 48 hours with the brain fog anxiety thing. And that was a game changer. So will I continue to take it forever? I don't know. I don't know. I'm hanging out for the science, I'll see what's happening in the future. But I can still hand on heart say that if I change anything in my workouts, or change anything in my nutrition, or I don't get enough sleep, then, things still go wobbly. So it's so important, those foundations.
Were you in your diet, were you consuming phytoestrogens little and often to fill the receptor sites?
I do take some, but I sort of still wasn't getting the optimal results. So
were you feeling, so because it's very specific. I mean, our successful program consists of 5 key things.
Okay, share, please. Let us know.
The first is detecting and correcting nutritional deficiencies. That's so, because they're so common, and that takes a while to do. But once you've got yourself back into good shape and you understand what you're doing, it has a massive impact on everything from brain fog through to the lining of your vagina. There's like so many things that nutrients are needed for. The next thing is consuming foods rich in naturally occurring estrogen. So the receptor sites don't stay full for more than 4 to 6 hours. And the molecule of Mother Nature's estrogen looks just like estradiol that you had before menopause. Now, if you don't fill the sites little and often throughout the day and the evening and the night, then you're going to get all the symptoms of menopause. You just can't get by without doing that. So we make sure that we tailor that for each individual. And then we use supplements that have been through properly conducted clinical trials, because there are so many supplements out there that haven't and don't even contain what they say on the label. So we're really picky about what we choose, and it has to have been shown to be safe and effective. Then the next thing is exercise. And that's doing, not necessarily running a marathon. It can just be dancing to your favorite music or doing some yoga or whatever it is, but finding what works for each individual person to just make sure you're being active and you've got an active lifestyle and you're getting more and more active, because it's not a competition, it's just you improving as time goes on. And then doing formal relaxation. So the formal relaxation is very important these days, especially when the world is in such a state and we've all got too much cortisol buzzing around our system, our stress hormone, because cortisol, high levels of cortisol, can mimic menopause and give us brain fog and anxiety and fatigue and belly fat and depression and insomnia, and the list goes on. So what we tend to do is we help women to get their cortisol down in a number of ways, but one of them is relaxation, formal relaxation, like a meditation or guided meditation session, because the research shows that you can reduce your hot flushes and night sweats by 50 to 60%. And when you've got high cortisol, you're burning the neural connections in your brain. And by doing the formal relaxation, it helps to rewire your brain. So it's helping you on so many levels. So this isn't a magic pill. This is somebody who goes on my program is really probably feeling like they've been bowled over by their hormones. They don't know which way to turn, and they're committed to making the changes to get the gain.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing. Like everything that you've spoken of is pretty much what I sustain in life. The meditation thing is elevated, and as things get kind of busy and, life throws you a few curveballs, parents getting older, and I have a teenage daughter as well. So those things are like, okay, if I don't just shut the door and put my headphones on and take a moment to breathe, shit's going to hit the fan. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that has accelerated over the last probably year or two. So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. I think it is quite challenging for women during this stage of life to realize the benefits of meditation, breathing, and I think practicing yoga. You kind of hit two of those things by one. Get on the mat, move, get some mobility, and breathe with it. So yeah,
I think, and I always hear people say, oh, I'm so busy, I haven't got time to relax. And I say, hang on a second, you are so frayed and you're so fragile, and you're definitely not producing your best stuff because you've got brain fog and you're hot and bothered and you've got anxiety. If you lay down for half an hour and do your guided meditation, we use a particular app which I absolutely love, because it makes you, it's been designed by neuroscientists, and it takes you into a really deep relaxed state. Whether it's, a lot of people can't meditate because their mind's too busy, but this just grabs you and takes you into this amazing place and then brings you out again, so you feel like you've had a whole night's sleep just in half an hour, and then you get up, you're refreshed, you've got loads of energy, and you can get going and be much more efficient. So it's a false economy to say that you don't have time.
Yeah. And we hear it all the time, and it's always hard for us to put ourselves first, right? But like you mentioned before, relationships start breaking down, work performance, all of those things, and just taking that sort of 10 to 15 minute window is a good place to start. To reap the benefits. Just
I think you need
calm the farm.
That's a great saying. The research shows you need to do a minimum of 20 minutes. So I just, I think to get the benefit, you've got to put a little bit of extra time into it. But I just, even when you're feeling anxious, even to stop for a minute and do some mindful breathing and focus on Mother Nature or a picture of something that lights you up or whatever it is, will make a difference. You touched on something that is so important and underrated, and that is that we don't make time for ourselves. Because as women, we're busy. As you say, we've got parents and we've got kids and we've got partners and we've got homes to run and businesses and so on. And guess who gets left to the back of the queue? You do. I had 4 children and wrote all these books and ran an advisory service. I've fallen on my nose more than once, I can assure you. But I've learned over time that you've got to. And when you get to menopause, you're almost like at a crossroads. You've either got to accept the fact that you're going to fall apart, and that's going to be part of your aging process, or you learn to meet your needs and get empowered with knowledge, information, and maybe some support, and get turbocharged so that you can actually embrace the next half of your life and be in really good shape so that you're there for everyone as well as yourself. So in a sense, you have to become your own parent and nurture yourself, even if it's just for a few months, and it pays such big dividends.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love everything you've said there. Just, really taking time to take care of yourself, and then everyone else is going to benefit from that, right?
And they'll support you as well. I think the thing
Yeah,
is, we don't have conversations. I mean, again, our surveys show that women aren't talking to men and men aren't talking to women.
yeah,
It's like they're all too scared. The men feel rejected. The women are scared to open the can of worms because they think that this is going to be the beginning of the end. They
yeah,
think they're, in fact, our surveys show that on our relationship survey that over 90% of women couldn't have an orgasm. They felt
yeah,
switched off below the waist. So if you think that that's all gone, why would you want to open your mouth and have a conversation? Whereas if you know that that's just part of being in economy mode and you can get all that back again comfortably
yeah,
without having vaginal dryness and so on, well, why wouldn't you go for it?
yeah, absolutely. It was really interesting. So last night I had a conversation about leading webinars in Asia. So I used to live in Asia a long time, and I always wondered, okay, so when are the women in Asia wanting to have a talk about menopause? And so I'm going to start doing some webinars up there with some companies. And the really interesting question was, can the men attend? I was like, you've got to be kidding that you think that I'm only going to be talking to women, because this is an everyone's conversation, right?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the first webinar I did for men and women was about, I think, probably about 3 or 4 years ago for Cisco. And the global wellbeing director asked us to do that. And I was bowled over, and so was she. She said it was the best health initiative they'd ever undertaken, and the men loved it. So now every time we go into a company, we always talk to the directors, we always talk to the men at webinars, and they are so grateful for the information, because let's face it, half the population go through menopause and the other half have to live with us.
Correct.
And so it affects their sleep as well if you're up 10 times in the night, and if you're
Yeah.
grouchy and you can't remember things. I mean, it's very disruptive to their life as well, and they need to understand. And also, if they support their partner going through this process, then you're going to come out of it feeling stronger together and have a much better bond between you. And
Yeah.
even if you can't have sex because your vagina's too dry and all that, while you're working on getting better, just massage,
Yeah.
have oral
Yeah.
sex,
Yeah.
just do something,
Do
just show
something. Yeah.
the whole person that you really
Yeah.
care, even if you are not in great shape.
Yeah. Hey, look, I love that conversation, because I've got a World Menopause Day episode coming out. We are talking about vaginal dryness. The topic I'm going head on. I've got two amazing guests, and the really cool thing is there's a lot of really good products now to support vaginal dryness, which are all natural, and it's all around repairing relationships and intimacy. And I think it's exciting. It's an exciting conversation, because so many women will go through this stage of life and they will lose that feeling of what they're entitled to as a woman, intimacy, orgasms, a close relationship. And we don't have to lose any of that in this stage of life. And I think that that's one of the saddest things that I hear, is how people
Oh, I totally
lose
agree with
that,
you. In fact,
Yeah.
I totally agree. The first study I ever read on natural menopause was published in the British Medical Journal. It was a study that was done at Monash in Melbourne.
Mm.
And they were a group of women, and they fed them phytoestrogens, and they found that they were able to bring about the same changes in the lining of the vagina as women who were taking it they'd expect to see in women who were taking HRT. And
Wow.
now, as you say, there are lots of and unfortunately there are things on the market that are not very active.
Yeah.
But equally there are supplements and creams and devices, red light therapy, for, I don't know if you've seen the V-Fit or V-Sculpt, I'm not sure what it's called in New Zealand, but I know it's different for England and America. But there's a amazing device here in America that's been through clinical trials. It's got FDA approval, it's got CE approval in Europe, and it works wonders. It's like red light therapy, like laser therapy, and it just helps. And it's also a vibrator, so you can use it as either, but it helps you to really keep your vagina in great shape.
That's awesome. So taking note right now, and I'll do a little social media post about that, shall I? Because I'm all about helping women find their vibrancy across all the different areas of their lives. And sexually, I don't think we say, okay, 45, we're done. Shut the doors. We're done with that, because no, life is to be lived. How was your menopause transition?
Oh, my menopause was really interesting, actually. Seeing as I'm supposed to be an expert, so I was getting divorced at the time. Well, I was getting divorced in my 40s, so I was about 46, 47, and I started to get some hot flushes and night sweats, and I thought, I didn't think anything at first. I just thought stress. And then after
Yeah.
a while, I remember walking away from my clinic in Harley Street in London and thinking, what if I'm going through an early menopause? And so I got home and I thought, well, I'm just going to sit down and write myself a program. So I did it and I followed it for 6 weeks and all the symptoms went. And then I thought, oh, it can't have been menopause. I'm much too young. And I'm just going to, I don't need to do this anymore. I haven't got any symptoms. And lo and behold, they all came back again. So that was my early menopause. And that was really because I didn't ever get PMS. So I didn't really have hormonal swings. So that was my little foray into it. Now I'm post-menopause. I have, and I keep active, but you get times in your life, as you say, when you get bowled over. I mean, I just had a root canal thing and a problem with one of my teeth, and I ended up having to have some stitches in my mouth, so I couldn't do my exercise. Yeah. And even if you stop exercising for a few weeks, whereas normally I can do the splits, I can do that anymore. I have to be careful to warm up again. So I think we have to, but you have to keep active. And I remember one of my TV series in the UK on my TV show was called Use It or Lose It. And it was all about joint health. And if you do seize up, then you've got to kind of limber up again gradually, so you don't kind of rip your ligaments and tendons and so on, and not to mention your muscles. So I find now that sometimes I take certain supplements. If I feel, is my knee a bit twingy, then I'll go back and take my fish oils or my glucosamine or whatever it is. But for the most part, once you learn how to meet your needs, you can tune in when you've got no symptoms and suddenly you get a bit of a symptom, you know exactly what to do and you can keep yourself in good shape. You just keep tuned up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't imagine life without moving. And some days I wake up and I don't want to go as hard as I did the day before. So it's actually been one of the coolest things about menopause, because prior to, I'm still at the back end of perimenopause. I'm not through menopause yet. I haven't had that one day with 1 year of not having a period. So I'm at the back end because I feel like I haven't got a whole lot of negative symptoms happening. But yeah, what's really cool is waking up and going, what does my body want to do today? I do 2 really good strength training sessions a week, like full body, compound muscle, relatively heavy, great technique. And that keeps me strong, keeps my bones strong, keeps my joints strong. And I haven't had an injury in years. So this is kind of a thing that's working for me. But then the next day I might wake up, I'm a little bit sore. I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to smash my body. I might go for a quick walk. I might do a yoga practice. And I love yoga. I pretty much do it every day. If I lose my ability to do anything else, if I can do yoga and do the splits like you said, it's kind of the benchmark, isn't it? Having that level of mobility that reminds you that, hey, at any age, I'm doing this and this feels great. And it's good for my self-esteem to know that my joints still move in that way and I'm not hurting myself. So yeah, that's the coolest thing, is to be able to mindfully understand what your body needs and not be so hard on yourself. Like you have that empathy for yourself and then it extends out into others.
Really, no, I agree with you, but I also think we've probably lost half the audience, because the ones who are thinking, I can't do the splits and I'm not very and I'm not very fit. So I think, for those women, I say, just dance.
Just move.
Put on your favorite music, sing and dance.
Now we're talking, girl.
Not a competition.
Yeah.
And you just gotta enjoy yourself. And I totally hear you. If you're feeling sore and challenged, do something else. Go for a swim, do some water aerobics. Or, the other thing you can do as well, like, you shouldn't do this every day, but I remember reading a book, or I've read many books on visioning, but I remember reading this study about a baseball team where they split them into 3 groups. One group trained for 6 weeks, one group did nothing for 6 weeks, and one group visioned they trained for 6 weeks. And when they did the fitness tests at the end of the study, the ones who visioned they trained were as fit as the ones who trained. So you know what, if you can't do it, then go and do your visualization, your meditation, and just vision your exercising. And it still has a therapeutic effect on you.
Yeah, that's a great study, isn't it? I
Not,
think a
not
lot of
won't help your bone mass probably, but
no,
you know.
I was thinking a lot of people will be going, yeah, I'm going to go for that. So cool. Maryon, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I just have one last question. You've been in this space for a long time. You are a pioneer. Where to from here for you? Now that you're in postmenopause, what is it that you hope to achieve? Because I feel like your life purpose has been led by your own experience as well.
Yeah, no, it has to some extent, but it's been more. I think what motivates me is anger and frustration at the injustice that women are left in this awful state. And that's how I started with PMS. Then I ran a foundation in memory of my daughter. And then when I came back to this sector about 4 years ago, and I made 4 little films for Facebook, which somebody told me to make because I didn't really know how to do anything on social media. And over 1 million women saw the films in the space of 12 weeks. It just made me cry. It made me really angry. And so what we're doing is we are on a mission to highlight the fact that women really only need a midlife refuel in their 40s and early 50s to feel like the best version of themselves. And we work with women in and out of the workplace. We've got new app coming. We've got our 6-week program, which is started out as my 5-month program, but it helps women, and it's all kind of tech oriented, so it runs from your phone or whatever. And we're just on this mission collaborating with other people to try and leave, not just help women to manage their menopause, but also to feel better in the long term. So looking at doing research to show what being proactive and making your diet and lifestyle a bit better can do for your heart, your bones, and your memory in the long term as well, so that we leave a legacy for future generations and it doesn't become something they dread like this generation. It's something they just think, oh, well, now I need to have my midlife refuel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just wanted to touch on the thing. There's a lot of fear around the menopause transition, and I take the positive spin quite often. I give the facts. I say, here's the facts. Here's what you can do about it. Here's all the things you can do. And actually, this is going to be amazing. So let's get after it. Once you put those things in place, life is amazing. Because I do hear a lot of the fear factor. And I don't think that we should be afraid of this incredible life that we're about to lead. My 17-year-old daughter knows everything about menopause. So I'm really excited for her future. She won't have that fear. She'll know exactly what's coming up and she'll be ready for it. So it's a pretty exciting time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember a few years ago, I was sitting next to my son, my eldest son, who was 19 at the time, and he was helping me create a website and a course and everything on menopause. And I remember we were laughing, saying that he's probably could go in the Guinness Book of Records for being the youngest man to know the most about menopause.
Yeah.
But actually, it will stand him in good stead in the years to come, when he gets himself into a situation where he has to support his staff and
Yes.
also his wife,
Yes.
going through this life stage.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maryon. Come and see me in New Zealand.
Yes, I will. Can I just tell you that we have a midlife refuel club and community, which is free. So people can go to my website, which is maryonstewart.com, and look out for the Midlife Refuel Club. We have live sessions every week. I have guest experts sometimes, and there is a wealth of literature in there. And there's also my book, Your Menopause Naturally. If anyone wants that, you can just get that on Amazon.
I'll be promoting all of that in the show notes as well. So everyone just scroll on down after this, tap, 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 and connect with Maryon. Thank you so much.
That's okay. Good luck.